On today's episode, we're going to talk about Mecole Hardman going on the IR, and does that open the door for Odell Beckham Jr. and KC? Plus, we're going to talk about the 5 keys to beating the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. Stick around.
Happy Friday, Chiefs Kingdom. I'm Steve, and I'm with Mike, and we do Kansas City Chiefs news, analysis, and more. If you're new here and you like watching two guys talk about Kansas City Chiefs football, I highly suggest you hit that subscribe button right now. We're just looking out for you. Guarantee you want to watch it. Also, hit the like button. Check out our other videos. Tell your friends. Everything helps. Mike, what do we got going on today in Chiefs Kingdom?
First off, I just want to say happy Red Friday, guys. We're going to clinch the division this weekend. I feel it in my bones. I feel it down in my plums.
In my plums.
In the plums. We're going to clinch this division.
Bluish hue.
Now, before we get into these 5 keys, let's talk about Mecole Hardman, Steve. He went on the IR today. They're putting him on there. They said he has a little bit of it. The abdominal is not healing properly. He's still having some nagging issues with his heel. He's going to have to miss 4 weeks. I did a little estimation. It looks like December 18th, I think is the date, versus the Texans is the earliest he can return now. What's this receiving core going to look like without Mecole? We've also got Juju now on a concussion this week, but what's this going to look like going forward? Does this hurt us?
I think the most that you're going to feel it might be this week, actually, because Juju's probably not playing. So he's going to be out with that concussion healing up. And it looks like MVS will be back, though, from his sickness. So if you miss him at all, it's going to be this week. And that's just because Juju's not there. I think once Juju gets back on the field, I mean, I know Mecole's had some good games. He had 3 touchdowns in one game just a couple weeks ago, but I honestly just don't feel like you'll miss him that much. Like, he's the gadget type guy. And obviously you saw last week, you can have Kadarius Toney do that role and do it better maybe. So, I mean, it's just it is what it is. So Mecole Hardman, I just don't think he's that big of a factor, to be honest. So it doesn't really affect anything, in my opinion.
Look, we've been big Mecole advocates here. We thought he was going to have a huge year. He struggled in camp to get going, but he finally did turn it on. He had a few good games early. He kind of dealt with a little bit of injuries here. He had a good game last week, the week before. You know, he was starting to turn it on again. More injuries. Do you think that Brett Veach and the Chiefs organization is going to look at this 3-week, 4-week stretch without Mecole and be like, going forward, are we going to miss this guy or are we not? Because it's coming up contract year with Mecole. Are they maybe going to look and be like, you know, we didn't miss him that much, we're going to let him walk? It's kind of a changing of the guard here in KC. I feel we're getting all these new players coming in, and you got players like Clyde and players like Mecole that are in these 5th-year options, and we're like, you know, we may be going forward with a whole new team here in the coming years. And it's kind of odd because we like these guys, we feel for these guys, we drafted them, we've grew with them. And yeah, what do you think, Steve? Do you think that's what they're going to do during this little period?
I would not be surprised if they don't move on from Mecole Hardman after the season. I just don't see why he needs to be here. I know that Brett Veach obviously liked him. That's why he drafted him above DK Metcalf and some other good receivers in the draft. But obviously it's not panning out all that great. Mecole's very, very hit or miss. His play is very spotty. It's boomer bust with him, right? I mean, you either have a really big day from Mecole Hardman or you don't even notice that he's on the field. So I'd say with all the weapons we got, if they can get Juju locked up for next year and stuff like that, I don't see any reason that Mecole Hardman stays in Kansas City. I feel like someone will probably overpay him somewhere else just out of desperation to get a playmaker, somebody can do some big things. Everybody wants their own version of Tyreek Hill these days, so maybe someone sees that in him, kind of like Brett Veach did in the draft. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I know the coaching staff and Veach seem to like Mecole, and they keep putting him in the offense and keep putting him in the offense. But I just don't think he's produced enough to really care if he's here or not. And I feel like he could walk.
I think it's all going to come down to how well and how healthy can Kadarius Toney fill this role for the next 4 weeks and for the rest of the season. If Kadarius Toney can stay healthy and put together that playmaker Tyreek 2.0 performance he kind of did and build on it from the last game, I believe with his age and everything and putting all that draft capital into him, I think we may just roll with him going forward, and there's no need for Mecole. And most people might disagree with me. Let me know in the comment section what you think. If Kadarius Toney can stay healthy, Do you think we're going to roll with him and let Miko walk? Because they're two of the same, similar, cut from the same cloth type of players. Um, Kadarius has already shown an ability though that he may be a different gear, and if he can just stay healthy, and I think they're gonna test run it and see what happens, see if the chemistry's there with Mahomes, and this could be bad for Miko. I believe before Kadarius Toney was brought in, they were looking to Sky Moore, and the way Sky Moore's been progressing, it's been a slow turtle snail's pace progression that may have bowled well for Miko. But now that Toney comes in, if Toney comes in, I think Toney could be the one to edge him out the door, not Sky Moore. And so Juju's already said he wants to maybe come back. Like he could look to stay long term here. He likes it here. So I'm with you. I think if they have an option, hey, we got to sign Juju or we got to sign Miko, I think they would favor Juju, to be honest, because it's a different type of player, and we
They
have
better.
Kadarius Toney.
So with Mecole Hardman being on the IR and maybe on the outs after this season, do you think they go after Odell Beckham Jr.? Those talks are going to rise back up. I've seen some stories today, probably fake ones, but where people were already starting rumors like, oh, Patrick Mahomes is pressure in the front office to go get OBJ and things like that. And I'm sure those rumors are going to come back heavy now that Mecole Hardman's out. But do you think that's something that Brett Veach wants to do? Do you think that that does open a door to get him in here? Or do you think that they just roll with what we got?
That's a great question. I do think that this week, if MVS steps up into this role this week, because he's almost going to be the number one this week, Kadarius Toney's got to step up this week. We're going to see how Sky Moore progresses this week and next week. Like you said, he may just need reps to take that next leap. And we got Justin Watson. He's going to be there. Maybe he can step up a little bit. Somebody's got to step up. I believe if nobody steps up this week, I believe it's a big possibility we may make a push for Odell Beckham Jr. after Sunday. If somebody steps up and then Juju comes back and Kadarius Toney plays well and does the Mecole Hardman stuff well, maybe Sky steps up and does a little bit more this week and we see a little flash from him. I think they'll pass on OBJ. But if we have a big letdown this week from our wide receiver core, you almost have to have an insurance policy because Juju now has one head injury, one bad hit, and he's probably going to miss a month. And we know how that happens. It usually concussions come in waves, it seems, because it's fresh. But yeah,
Right.
let's hope.
So the Eagles, they signed Ndamukong Suh today. So they're still making moves trying to beef that team up. They're trying to make it the 2017 Warriors, last year. You had the Rams the year before that, you had the Bucks, and this year you have Buffalo, and you got the Eagles trying to do the same type of thing where they're just kind of loading their teams up. Do you think that puts some pressure on Veach, like seeing teams like the Eagles still improving their roster to this point to maybe go out and get Odell Beckham because he feels like we need to be adding weapons as well?
No, I think if Veach felt that pressure, we would have probably already looked to Ndamukong Suh. We had talked about that before. Something was keeping us away from him. I don't think it was his play style. I believe it was his age. Um, I don't think he's willing to go out and pay a bunch of money to older guys. That may be the reason that Odell Beckham is not here yet. Maybe they can't find a dollar figure that his agents like, and Veach is like, look, I'm not going to overpay you to come in. I don't know how that double ACL is going to hold up. I don't know if you have enough speed to stretch the field. I don't know if it's needed. This playbook is a little difficult for maybe you to come in and execute well and make a big difference. So I don't think so. I think the Eagles and all these teams like that, it's the Patrick Mahomes, like it's the effect, it's the ripple effect. The same with the AFC West, loaded up and spent every dime they had. I think you've seen the Dolphins are starting to do it. It's starting to now get over into the NFC, and they know if they go to the Super Bowl, it's a good chance they're going to play, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen and two really good teams. So they got to load up for that. I don't think Beach feels like we have to do that. I think he's
I
confident enough
mean,
in the roster we've
he
built.
he never has before. He don't really get in that kind of a mix and like, the pissing matches with other teams, just trying to add pieces. He normally likes to just stick with what he's got and get his team younger and healthier. And I think that's probably what we end up doing. I doubt we even make a play for OBJ. If we do, I'm all for it. And if we don't, I don't mind it either. So it is what it is. But let's go ahead and get into the top five keys on beating the Chargers on Sunday night. Mike, you want to go ahead and get that one going?
Yeah. So number one, we've been alluding to it this entire time with Juju out, with Miko out now. The number one key to the game is which receiver is going to step up. Maybe two, maybe three, maybe all four of them step up. But who out of MVS, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, and Kadarius Toney is going to step up and take some of the pressure off Patrick Mahomes and off Travis Kelsey? Because we know Kelsey's got a tough matchup with Derwin James coming. It's a physical matchup. They're going to hold. They're going to beat them. I feel like they're going to do Jacksonville 2.0 to us this week. I feel like that's just the game plan going forward. It always seems to be. Jacksonville kind of replicated Tennessee from the week before. It's a copycat league. So number one, which guy's going to step up on the wide receiver, on the depth chart there, Steve?
Well, I would love to say that Sky Moore is going to get more of a role and that we might actually see him do something and get people a little more excited about Sky Moore and maybe see what he can do, see that he is somewhat progressing and not just, being a stick in the mud for Kansas City this year. But realistically, I think it's going to be Justin Watson. I feel like he's been kind of a safety net for Mahomes so far this year at times. And I feel like he's going to come right into that role and play it well. He seems to be a great route runner. He's fast and he's got good hands. So I feel like if anyone has a chance to make a big splash this week that you're not expecting, it would be Justin Watson. Now, I do think Kadarius Toney will have another solid game. There's always a chance with someone like Kadarius Toney that he could go off. He could have a monster game.
Yeah, he could take
But
it over.
right, he really could. But I would say just the safe bet here would be to expect Justin Watson to be a little bit more involved and get a little more catches than you've seen.
Yeah. Sadly, I believe there's another step. There's another progression for MVS, but I think you're seeing what MVS brings. He's a deep threat when we develop a run game, and he also is something that Mahomes feels a little comfortable taking shots to in certain
Well,
situations. But I don't see MVS really becoming that like go-to number one guy.
I saw a chart of receivers in the NFL, and it showed how open they get and then their catch rate and stuff like that. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling was the lowest on being open. Like he is the most not open receiver in the NFL, pretty much. So there's that.
Well, he's fast. We know he's fast, but we've said this from day one. I don't think this offense is using him properly. We thought he was coming in to just display his speed and to blow the top off of that cover two, but we're not seeing that. We're seeing him run these little out routes and these hitch routes, and it's very odd the way they've used him so far. So he's not built to do that kind of stuff, and that just
Right.
goes to show that maybe his body type in our system doesn't work. It didn't work for Josh Gordon. Um, big wide receivers in our style of offense don't seem to work very well.
Key number two to beating the Chargers on Sunday night is something that we've talked about before, but it's very vital for this Chiefs offense, and that is to get play calling that gets us in a rhythm, gets Patrick Mahomes in a rhythm, and is just very efficient and keeps this offense moving smoothly throughout the day and not see those three and outs and those, just dead drives that drive everybody nuts, right?
Yeah, I would love to see that. I would also like to see the run game get going. I think these two things have to happen. We got to get Mahomes in a rhythm. This offense has to get in a rhythm. I'd like to see the running backs also get in a rhythm and establish a run game behind this offensive line. We know the offensive line strength is run blocking, not pass blocking. Kind of counterintuitive since we got the best passer in the game and maybe the history of football, but it is what it is. We know Wiley and we know OBJ over there on the left side is a better run blocker than a pass blocker. So now that Pacheco has that starting job maybe locked up, are we going to stick to the ground game a little bit? We're down a little bit of a few weapons. That's never stopped Andy before, though. Usually, if you think that we're short at one spot, he's going to hammer that spot because he don't think that you think that we're going to do it. But yeah, I think we just got to be efficient. We got to have a good game. I think the Chargers are going to come out kind of doing that. I think they're going to rely on Eckler a lot, different things. So I think we need to match that, keep Justin Herbert off the field, and we got to do that with establishing our own rhythm and run game.
Yeah, and it would be a good game for the offensive line and Isaiah Pacheco to have a good day because they are vulnerable. This team, we've seen it all year long. They're vulnerable to the run. And I feel like that we can impose our will on them early with the run game. And then that opens a lot of things up for Mahomes. We talk about this all the time. It's common sense, but let's see if we can get it rolling this game. I think it's very important.
Okay, so let's go on to number 3. I think number three is something that people may not expect, but you should expect it. Dave Tobe and special teams play this year has been horrible, but I feel like this is the week that they need to step up and be big for us because I have a feeling this is a televised game. I don't think the officials want this to be a blowout. I think they're going to keep it close. I don't think they want to see the Chiefs lock up the AFC West, the toughest division ever assembled before week 11, before we're having turkey dinners. I don't think they want to see us lock up that division. So I do believe they're going to keep the game close, be it with officiating or whatever else. And I believe it's going to come down to these small plays. And with that, I'm going to say special teams has to show up this week. We may need a big return in the punt game or the return game. We may need a big tackle that creates a turnover. Maybe Butker just needs to step up and hit a field goal. Who knows? But we have to have something in that special teams game and that side of it. There's three phases in football, and so far the Chiefs have been rolling on two of them, and the third one's always been a little bit of a hindrance. I think we need a complete game to get the win this week.
Yeah, special teams has definitely been the ugly sister on the team right now. So they got to get it together. That's all there is to it. Just a solid performance from the special teams would be very, very helpful. We just don't need them to screw anything up, basically. So that's all we want to see there. And I think that's all they have to do. They need to get out there and just play fundamental football and have a good day and don't do anything that makes news.
Hey, thank the good Lord that Brett Veach got Kadarius Toney in here because with Mecole going on IR, it was going to be back to Sky Moore in the punt game. And I love Sky Moore, but please God, no more punt returns for this guy. Leave him over there on the sideline. Sky, sit down, buddy.
Key number 4 to taking down the Chargers is going to be the aggressors. It's going to be a tough physical in conference matchup against the Chargers. It always is. You know they're going to come out and try to smack us in the mouth, much like the Jaguars did and the Titans did. They want to get out there and try to bully us a little bit. But you know what? We need to bring that to them. We need to be the aggressors. We need to get out there and smack them in the mouth and make them react. I think that's big time key to winning this game, getting out to an early lead and just maintaining.
Yeah, I want to see one of our defenders power bomb one of their players this time, man.
Right.
I want them to be aggressive, but I want Andy to make good play calls that get us up the field. You know, we get in those fourth and short situations like a foot, a yard on our side of the field. Put the pedal down. Let's go win this division. Let's be aggressive. Let's play smart. And I'm with you. I think that they're going to come out and try to replicate Jacksonville and Tennessee. Derwin James always tries to hold and kick and punch. He'll beat Kelsey to death. There'll be an ice shortage with him sitting in the ice bath for a week after this game in Kansas City, no doubt. But you just gotta have to play through it. And again, I think they're going to try to do that. And I don't think the officials are going to call anything. I think they want to see Kansas City lose this game in prime time just to dampen the old Kansas City train, the old hype train. But yeah, I think we just have to be aggressive. You can't leave points on the field. Put them on the board, man. No more, no missing field goals, no punting in unnecessary situations, no bad turnovers. I'm with you. We just need to be aggressive and be smart. And that'll take us on to number 5. And number 5 is let's hit Justin Herbert. And let's not just hit Justin Herbert. Let's hit him a lot. I want to see a repeat. I don't want to see the guy hurt. Let's don't get wrong. I want to see a repeat of that Mike Dana body slam that he had on him in week 2. Don't you, Steve?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's all you have to do to really knock this team out of rhythm is just to hit Herbert, right? I mean, he's a big guy. He can take some beating, but he can also use his feet and scramble. He's very, kind of deceptive when it comes to that because you don't really think it, but he can. So we gotta, contain him and we gotta get in there and hit him. And I think we need to hit him quick because we are gonna, a lot of times we have to blitz and Spagnuolo likes to blitz a lot to get to the quarterback. He can eat a blitz alive. I mean, much like Mahomes can. He's a good quarterback. He can make some crazy throws and he makes smart decisions really fast. But if you hit him, he's got a little bit of that Derek Carr gene in there where he starts getting a little bit of happy feet and he starts throwing some bad passes, i.e., Jalen Watson getting a pick 6 when they could have won the game right there.
Yeah, I think this year he's kind of regressed just a little bit. But let's be honest, the dude's been missing weapons all year, all season. He's been down weapons. It looks like Mike Williams and maybe Keenan Allen both are going to come back and play against the Chiefs. Why wouldn't they? They were probably rehabbing the whole year just to get back for this game. But yeah, fully expected. But yeah, you're going to have to get to Herbert. You're going to have to hit him. It's going to be a big game. I'd like to see Frank Clark get back there and disrupt it. He's had 2 weeks to rest and recoup himself. Chris Jones is always a monster. Colin Saunders has been playing out of his mind. I think George Karlaftis, our boy George, oh man, I can't. I'm thinking bad things for George Karlaftis this week. He's gonna get 2 sacks, not just one. He's going for 2 sacks this week. Our boy George Karlaftis is showing up this week. He's gonna put a hurting on Justin Herbert. But yeah, I think it's going to be a big game from our defensive line. I think our defensive line has to dominate that offensive line. And remember, they don't have Rashawn Slater. He's missing. He's gone for the season. So Frank Clark ought to be able to eat. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it should be a great game for the defensive line. Should get a lot of pressure. I want to see Chris Jones in there doing Chris Jones stuff. Um, George Karlaftis batting balls down and being the water polo player that he is, and just all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, I think that's a key, man. Like I said, just hit Herbert and let's win this game, man, and go ahead and lock this division up.
Hey, if George Karlaftis gets 2 sacks on the day, will you get a George Karlaftis tattoo?
No.
3 sacks. If he gets 3 sacks, we'll both go get a 56 on our arm.
Oh.
You said no.
So when you're talking about key number 4 and you're talking about Kelsey getting held and them being physical with him and stuff like that, I had a thought that come to mind. I was like, this is a good time as any to bring this up, but I didn't get a chance to. But yeah, so did you happen to catch on New Heights where he's talking about how teams like to play him that way? He was talking about I want to say it was after the Titans game, and he was talking about how they just held him every play and they like to hit him and chip him and this and that. And he said a lot of times he was talking about, I think, yeah, he was talking about ripping that guy's helmet off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about. So did you happen to catch that? So he was like, I've learned over the years, he was like, if they're going to play you that way, that you have to do whatever you have to do to win that matchup. He's like, whether it's rip their helmet off or grab them under the throat or push their head up, whatever you got to do, you got to do what you have to because you cannot rely on a referee to throw a flag on that. And I would just like to point out that I said that about that exact play. And I also said that about Chris Jones several weeks back when we played Buffalo with a tripping penalty that they didn't call because he was getting held like crazy. But a lot of people acted like I was crazy for saying that. But I would just like to point out that Kelsey said out of his own mouth that you have to do that. So they're on the same wavelength as I was, and that made me happy because I'm like, good. That's the way they think, and that's the way they're going to do this thing because, in my opinion, that's how you have to be, or else you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, I'm glad they have that mentality. As said before, we've played the game of football. We've been there. There's been times, that you're going to come up against players that want to take whatever advantage they can of these officials not wanting to call and throw flags on every play. Because an official's not going to do that. Let's be honest. As much as they want to be involved, they're not going to throw one on every play. They're going to let stuff slide 99.9% of the time. It's always the key situations they want to seem to throw it in. But other than that, Belichick and everybody's adopted that where you just got to get handsy and grabby. Good Lord. Fenton was the king of that. Like we've watched him for years and all he wants to do is grab because he knows they can't. I mean, they busted him in that Tampa Bay game and that's why we got blown out. But other than that, yeah, but we've been there before. If somebody's holding, you got to do whatever you can to get off the hold. You can't rely on the official.
Punch them in the ribs. Do whatever you got to do.
There's some stuff that goes on that you don't want to know about, but yeah, it happens. It's a physical game. It's a tough game. You can't rely on the officials to bail you out, man. You got to stand up for yourself, and you can't be bullied. If you become bullied, you're gonna get beat, and you're gonna get beat bad, and you're gonna look bad doing it. But one more thought I have about this, and we've said this countless times. How crazy is it that this awesome division, we may wrap this thing up before Thanksgiving. If we get the win on Sunday Night Football, which I believe we're totally capable of doing. I think we should be favored, and I think we're going to win the game. But I just had this thought. Do you realize we may win this division before we even play the Denver Broncos a single time?
Yeah.
Has that ever been done?
I thought about that. I don't know, but I thought about that. It was like, how funny is it that we don't even have to play the Broncos, right? Like, it's like, we're going to win the division before we even play you sorry donkeys,
Hopefully.
Yeah, the Broncos are just bad. You know what else is bad? Someone saying that Mike Vrabel is at this point, the coach of the year, the top candidate. That's insane. We talk about it right here in this video. We also talk about Mahomes being in the lead in the MVP race and much more. So we'll catch you next time, Chiefs Kingdom. See you on Sunday night against the Chargers. Let's wrap this division up, baby.
Let's get it. Go Chiefs.
There goes a sight from my soul.